Been paying attention to this all week. The Cowboys' win total is 7.5, according to ESPN Bet. They added George Pickens. Are we underestimating what the Cowboys might be?
I don't think so. I mean, I like what they've done in the offseason with, the defense and the O-line and, of course, adding George Pickens. But their schedule isn't easy. I know the numbers don't match up as it being an incredibly hard schedule, but they're playing within their own division, which is really tough. They got to play the NFC North, which may be the toughest division in football. And they also got the West of the AFC.
They won 7 games last year without Dak. Mike T, Justin Fields and the Jets. Any chance he leads them to the playoffs this year?
Yes, Greeny. I see him somewhere between the 6th and the 9th seed for 3 reasons. Last year, the Jets were last in the NFL with the most penalties. They were -2 in turnover ratio, and they were 21st in fourth quarter scoring. Those are all indicative of not being well coached. Aaron Glenn will make a massive difference. This team will be hard to beat.
It's hard to argue they weren't the worst coach team ever last season. We'll see if almost anything would be a step up. And then the last one, I want to set up, Graziano, the Ben Johnson sound. Ben Johnson, the new coach in Chicago, everyone excited. Here's what he said about the notion, as was brought up recently and has been over the decades, that Chicago is the place that quarterbacks go to die.
I love it. I love the opportunity to come on in and change that narrative. That's where great stories are written. And so we're looking to write a new chapter here, 2025 Chicago Bears, and looking forward to the future.
I was going to go to Graz, but I got to tell you, Michael Wilbon was jumped out of his chair. What did you say when he said that?
That's what you have to have, that kind of belief. And then we can actually have something in that franchise besides running backs and linebackers. So this is what you have to have. And they've got the human capital to now do this, Greeny. So, I like everything Ben Johnson has said so far, including his introductory press conference. His awareness of modern football, which the Bears have not been guilty of, even when they're having terrific seasons, a 12-4 just a few years ago. Ben Johnson's going away from that. So it's so great to hear.
How about Graziano, Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams together?
Yeah, I believe in both of them in terms of their talent and their ability. I don't know that it happens this year. I think Ben Johnson, in most of his offseason commentary on Caleb Williams and the Bears, has talked about building something, and that takes a little time. I think if you're patient as a Bears fan, which I recognize is not easy considering it's been the place where quarterbacks go to die, that it'll eventually bear fruit. But I think this is going to be, especially the first half of the season, is going to be a lot about learning and growing into the talent of Caleb Williams. I think Ben Johnson, everybody that's worked with him that I've talked to, believes in his ability to be a great head coach and a great leader. We're all going to find out together.
Mike T, you're one of those people who worked with Ben Johnson.
Yeah, and I told that to Dan Graziano. Look, I work with Ben, and he believes in fundamentals. And when you look at what Caleb Williams needs to do, guys, in the NFL, the first thing you have to do is stop losing games. And when your quarterback is sacked 68 times, you're going to lose a lot of games. Hemo gave me a great stat. When you look at Jared Goff over the last 3 years in Detroit with Ben Johnson, his average time to throw was 2.72 seconds. He will get rid of the ball fast. Look for guys like Colston Loveland, their first-round pick, to be highly productive. They added 3 offensive linemen in free agency. They added Ozzie Trapillo in the draft. They've given Caleb Williams every chance to get better. I believe he will under Ben Johnson.
Dominique, I don't want to get into all the details again. I have gone over this over and over again. But the first thing that I think Ben Johnson has to do with Caleb is deprogram him of all of the nonsense that happened last year. The Bears, if they had set out to sabotage their young quarterback, couldn't have done a better job of it than they did last season. And so my question to you, Neek, is how easy is that to do? Like, are you starting from zero, or are you starting from somewhere behind zero when you start working with Caleb Williams in year 2?
Well, since my buddy Jeff Saturday's not here, I have to say the most obvious thing and the thing that's not always fun to talk about. The O-line, they've improved it. If their O-line is anywhere as close to as good as it looks on paper on the field, then all the things that we're worried about go away. Like, you get to be an offensive genius when your O-line is successful. You get to do more complex schemes. Your quarterback gets to be comfortable in the pocket and take longer to make decisions. Everything gets easier, and deprogramming your quarterback, it's a lot easier when he's not constantly under pressure, when you can run the ball to take pressure off of him. So I think it really boils down to what it always does, is the fundamentals of football. They're their defense can tackle, and their offensive line can block, then I think everything will be much better, because that's what we saw work out for them in Detroit with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, and the same thing will work out in Chicago, because it works everywhere in the whole history of football. Block and tackle.
The voice of the Bears fans is sitting in our room. What do you expect from him and from them this season, Michael Wilbon?
I like what Grass said. He talks about building, and he's very careful in talking about building. Ben Johnson is. And the Bears' schedule is brutal. I believe I've read this week that it's either, depending on what you read, the second, third, or fourth most difficult schedule in the NFL. With that said, the Bears lost 5 games last year on the final play or overtime. 5. So let's just do some math with that, in addition to what they win, 5 games total.
Yeah.
And it was a mess. They were inadequately coached. They're not going to be inadequately coached on the offensive side of the ball this year. So you can have a massive improvement. It doesn't mean they're going to win 12 or 13 games. It doesn't. They're in a completely difficult division, the best in the sport. But I will say this, we're not impatient.
Right.
We're not. Because we've never had anything to say, okay, we got to have this quarterback. That's not that fan base.
You've
somebody else.
only waited 100 years. Graziano, final word.
Yeah, look, I think it's important to note that Caleb Williams did spend last year as a starting quarterback in the NFL. There is benefit to that. Even if you can rip the coaching all you want, they've all been fired. We all know the story. But whatever he took from last year in terms of the negatives and the positives of starting a full year in the NFL offers Ben Johnson some ground on which to do that building. And I think you see the good moves. Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator is an outstanding selection by Ben Johnson. He can take care of that side of it and let Ben work with Caleb and the offense and manage the big picture. But I think you have to like the steps that the Bears have taken since Ben Johnson got there, and you also have to acknowledge that there are a few more still to take.
I agree. Look, it is a city that produced a pope before it produced a 4,000-yard passer, and the Bears have been around since the 1920s.
McNown to Trubisky. The quarterback position has been a century-long moving target in the city of Chicago. Last week, old reporting resurfaced that now Bears quarterback Caleb Williams' camp was not thrilled with the idea of landing in Chicago. Williams' father, Carl, saying, quote, "That's where quarterbacks go to die." Fast forward 14 months, it's a new coach for that QB, Ben Johnson, addressing a historic opportunity.
I love it. I love it. I love the opportunity to come on in and change that narrative. That's where great stories are written. And so we're looking to write a new chapter here, 2025 Chicago Bears, and looking forward to the future.
The story comes out last week. Is that something that you felt obligated to talk to Caleb about and to talk about where he's coming from there?
Have we talked about it? Yeah, we talked about it last week after it came out, but he's his own man. He's going to be treated as such. I think we're both really looking forward to turning the page on years prior and focusing on the here and now. It's still early. It's still early. We're getting to know each other. He's been in the building 6.5 weeks now, and getting to know him on a personal level. And the more time we spend together, the better I feel. We got a great coaching staff around him as well, with JT Barrett leading the charge. Declan's in the room. Press Taylor's in the room. So we've got some good seasoned voices in there. And then you bring in a guy like Case Keenum. He does a great job with his experience, bridging that gap sometimes between coaching and playing, and finding any potholes that could be in there. So I feel really good about the mix around them, and that allows the relationship just to naturally form.
Feels like a far more robust infrastructure around the quarterback in Caleb Williams. And consider this. Last year, the rookie quarterback threw for 3,541 yards, 20 touchdowns, just 6.
Tiếp vào nha. Mũi tiếp theo này. Tiếp tục móc.